All right. Good morning. And I
Good morning.
this. Welcome to BQ Sunday morning, and it's a fine morning because we have got Adam-Troy Castro of the recently broken nose world, and we've got Lou Berger, who is currently living in Colorado. I understand that your home insurance rates are going up in Colorado.
Oh,
Hideous.
they're crazy. They're crazy.
Oh, well, that's not the topic of conversation today, but it
His
is.
his big problem. His big problem is that his backyard's neighbor keeps trying to eat his dog.
The backyard neighbor's doing what?
Keeps trying to eat his dog.
Okay.
His backyard neighbor's a puma.
Yeah, we had what we think was a mountain lion just the other side of the fence, and I'm fostering a very small Sheltie. She's 11 pounds, and she's frenetic, and she moves her little piston legs back and forth because she grew up in a breeder's cage instead of like in a backyard being loved. So I'm doing an angelic work for helping rehab this little dog, getting ready for adoption. But the fact that we had a mountain lion just the other side, gazing through the fence at our succulent morsels, aka dogs, caused a little bit of concern.
How's she doing? It's been a couple of weeks.
She's great. I took her on a leash yesterday to the Rocky Mountain Collie Sheltie Rescue picnic. It's an annual picnic down in Castle Rock, about 20 minutes away. And she sniffed every other dog, and she didn't bolt. She didn't strain. She didn't get to the end of the leash and try to slip it off. She was very well behaved. I was very excited.
Good.
That is a good thing. My daughter does shelter dogs, or adoption, and takes care of dogs. I've got 4 of my own. But we haven't announced it yet, but it is coming. An anthology called Evil Pets. And you can just imagine how much fun you can have with that one. But
hold the place for me. That sounds good.
so do you have a cat, don't you, Adam?
I have 2 cats. Up down from a height of, but I'm currently living in an apartment building, and I was down to 2 due to mortality. But I have Harley Quinn and I have Philip Marlowe.
Well, now that's an interesting mix of names from spectrum-wise.
Mm-hmm.
So what about you, Lou? I mean, do you just do animals that you find by the road, or do you actually have a pet?
I have two pets. One was a rescue from in Denver. We have not a humane society, but we have something called the Dumb Friends League, and the implication is they're dumb because they're not able to speak, not because they're less intelligent than others. We got one of those, and I have a failed foster, again from Rocky Mountain Collie Sheltie Rescue. I'll put the website link up later. That I took in, and less than 24 hours later, Winston let me know that he was no longer a foster, that this was his home. And so I had to convey to Hope Hemperly. The alliterative name implies that she's either a hero or a villain in the Marvel universe. That was a failed foster.
Well, that is cool. Yeah, the closest I've come to fostering cats is when I sold my farm. The fellow that had been living there had moved out, and I was cleaning up a little bit after him, and I found a dead squirrel carcass in the kitchen, a mother cat, 3 kittens, and a young Tom. Turns out he had walked off and left his cats, and they were surviving on squirrels that the mother cat would catch for the babies. And well, I still got that young Tom. His name is Roger, and he lurks around here a lot. So, what is inspiring you guys these days?
You want me to go? You can go.
You go first.
I am finishing up a story for an anthology this around a shared universe called Scott's Planet. You may know of this, Bob. And I had it turned in, but one of my beta readers, who I let see it before I got feedback from you, Bob, said, "There's some things in here I don't understand. What kind of name is Scott's Planet? That sounds. Can't they come up with something better?" And I'm like, "Hey, it ain't my world, dude. It's not my world. I'm doing what I'm told." Hey, Liam. So I reached out to you, and you graciously said, "Take a little bit of time and tack on that third scene that that I had talked to you about." And I have done it, and I will change the title. Instead of being Tinker Tetsu and the Donkey That Lived, instead of that, it'll be Tinkerer Tetsu and the Star Metal Sword. So that's going to be the new title. So I'll have that to you very shortly.
I wonder what that's made out of.
Meteorites.
You know,
Go ahead.
what about you, Troy?
I have to admit something sad, which is that I haven't completed any writing at all this year. I've begun some stories, and I've gotten stuck on some stories. But this was a very tough physical year for me, and it kind of has thrown me off my feed, and I'm having trouble finding my way back to the groove where I could finish work. It's going to happen, but 2023 is going to be a lost year in my earth, and that's okay. I have a few things I'm trying to get started, and a novel that I will start writing once I manage to get a short story under my belt or two. So there is that. Lou points out something which I was too nice to, which is that my name is Adam in conversation, not Troy.
Well, I had put that little conversation in our private chat that nobody can see but us.
I actually know that. I have I'm from Texas, and down there I got 3 family members named Troy.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it just every now and then pops out. So I apologize, Adam.
No need for apologies. Apologize for something that requires vengeance. No need.
That's good.
Well, anytime you do feel the need to write a short story, after that marvelous story you did for Post Grow,
with the wheeze of a glass sentence.
Yes,
that was just. Post Row Alternatives is the name of the book, but Adam, you wrote a brilliant story for us.
Thank you.
And you ever have one of those stories as an editor? Because I think you both edited, right?
No, I've never actually edited an anthology. I've been the first I've been the first reader for people, and I've always kind of wanted to, but with assistance. But no, I've never actually done that. But as first reader, I've encountered an occasional masterpiece and said, "Oh God, you don't know what's coming."
I had the opportunity. Bob gave me permission to edit your story, Adam, and I have to tell you, in my editing career, that was probably the highlight.
Thank you.
On your story with you, one-on-one, gave me such. I felt like I was in the presence of a muse, of a mentor, and it was very strong emotionally for me. I sobbed editing that story, and then made suggestions on how to make it tauter and tighter and more impactful. And the
I think they worked.
The final, it's so.
Well, I think. I had to go in afterwards, because I'm the publisher. It's my obligation. And there are every now and then a story so good, so finely woven together that you pull one string and it's like, be careful, you don't want to do that, and that's the kind of story you wrote. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, you know what? I should. I have a new anthology that's set up because I finally got tired of something, You ever have haven't done anthology, Adam, but you have, Lou, is that where you get the stories that are so good you apologize in the rejection. I'm so sorry I need to reject this, but we're writing about medieval frogs, and you've sent me the best story ever about a modern troll. You know, and you just so I've actually set up a publication now that I when I find the stories that are just that good, I pop them over there so that when I get ready, when it gets full up, I can call them up and say, "Is this still available?"
A potpourri of rejects.
Oh God, yeah. Um, I can
The
imagine.
last dangerous also rounds.
I like it.
Hey, I mean, I have seen stories that I swear, if they got in the right publication, would be either on the ballot or win the Hugo. Were that good, and it's like, oh my God, you're sending this to me? Oh, I'm not worthy. So it's good stuff. It is good stuff. So, Adam, there is a book here. I wanted you to know if you would tell us a little bit about this. Uh,
Yes, well, this is a collection of short stories. Last year, I did two collections under the auspices of Ben Howman, um, and um, and these were just stories that I've published over the last few years in Lightspeed and uh, and other places, um, including a couple of anthologies. And it's just the one of two recent collections I've done, which were just dispatches for my current output. No story there is older than 8 years, and most of them came out in the last 2 or 3 years. The title story is one of several stories I have written with my late wife as a speaking character, um, and and this is because I was writing the story behind the story when she started complaining about the plot on logical grounds, and I put her objections um, in transcript into the story and just used them to explain away anything that was wrong with the premise.
the omniscient editor voice, huh?
Oh yeah, the omniscient editor and the omniscient first reader. I think I invented the omniscient first reader.
I like that.
Yeah, she also has two other. She also appears in two other stories um, in that collection, I believe. Um, both written after she unfortunately passed away. Um, so they were both memorial stories. This one was written while she was still with us.
Well, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Still, so people can click on that. You know, there's a QR code there. You can take that picture, click on it, and oh my God, yeah, it looks like you've got three people already clicked on that.
Beautiful.
And
Thank you, everybody.
well, it's you know, Adam, I just very much have found that you have got such a delicate way of writing, and the funny thing about it is, I can say the same thing about Lou. Uh, I am just honored to get Lou into some of the BQ publications, uh, and also when I got Lou, he helped me. He helped convince Mike Resnick to send me a few of his stories too.
And David Gerald wrote the foreword for that More Alternative Truths. And I got to edit him too. He sent the foreword in to you and you sent it to me. And I went through it and I found, because he writes very cleanly. You know, David's a frequent guest here on the show. He might be dialed in from Vermont, if that's where they still are. And I found one word. I found one word in all of the forward that was wrong. He used the wrong "it's." You know, there's one with an apostrophe and there's one without. and
Yeah.
he used the wrong one. And so I wrote back. This was on Facebook Messenger chat. I said, "Hey, David, just got your forward for the anthology. Want to let you know I want to send it back to you with edits, so you can give me some, you can approve or change or whatever." And he writes back all caps, because he and I are friends, and he teases me and I tease him. And he writes in all caps, "If you touch a single word of my prose, I will rip your head off and I will beep down your neck."
It's a horror movie, Lou. Harlan possessed him briefly.
That's it. That's it. The ghost of Harlan came back from the beyond and said, "You
And
don't touch my prose."
David
And I
started
said,
doing this.
so I wrote back, "Okay, period. Never mind, period." And then I went dot dot dot, and I watched the screen for a minute, and I went dot dot dot, and I watched the screen for a minute, and he must have been leaning in, like, what's he doing? And then I wrote, "But you wrote something wrong, period." And I sent it, and then nothing. 20 minutes goes by, and finally he writes back, "Okay, what was it?" And I write back all caps, "No, you're gonna tear my head off and beep down my neck." So he said, "Okay, I'm sorry. Send it to me and I'll fix it." It was just one word. So this is the fun I have.
David and I shared something this weekend without really intending to.
What was it?
Okay, I'm currently reading, and I'm in the last horrifying 10 pages of Holly by Stephen King, which is the latest book about his great new character, 10 years old, Holly Gibney.
Yeah.
And at a key point in the book, somebody says to Holly, "Do you know what triples are?" And Holly says, "I'm a Star Trek fan. Of course I know what triples are." And the conversation goes on for a little bit and extends the metaphor about triples. So I just let David know, and he was very, very, very interested in that. But the first victim in the book, his name is Castro, the first murder victim. So I'll take that. I will associate that with myself. Fine.
Why not?
To compete with David.
You gotta love it. Yeah, David's writing some parts for a novel that we're doing. We have a blogger who shows up we're using to kind of tell us a lot of things that we don't want to spend 3 pages of data dump doing. And when I talked to David about doing it, he said, "I'm going to write what I write, and you're going to like it."
I have an interesting thing which I've done quite a few times, and I think David has done it too. Deliberately writing against the guidelines for the anthology.
Oh no, he would never do that.
I've done that a few times. John Skip, who's a horror editor, horror writer, very nice guy, did an anthology of zombies, and he says, "The one thing I don't want to receive from you people, I don't want to receive another story where the climactic moment is the zombies biting off somebody's penis. I don't want to see that. I see that so many times. Stop doing that." And I contacted him and says, "What about a story where that happens in the first sentence?" And it's about that. It's about the little runaway penis that's going around eating people. And he says, "God damn you." I wrote that story and he published it. It was called From Hell It Came. Figure it out.
Double meaning, everything. I get it.
Oh Lord, thank God you listened to the guidelines on Roe. I hate to think what you could have done with a zombie
fetus.
My story does not have an abortion in it.
No, it does not.
Oh yeah, they couldn't allow that to happen, so it would have just had to eat the mother and move on.
You're one of the few folks that reframed it in such a manner that the men were not part of the story. The fetus was incidental, but you turned it around to focus on reframing it to say, this is what it means to be a woman in a society where she's not allowed to have the autonomy over her own body. And you did it with such stark realism, stark terror. The fact that the baby was there and she was gone, it was so, yes, it's a metaphor. I get it, but it's also super powerful. And like if I were a woman reading that book, I would feel at the beginning, I would identify with that woman, and then I would be horrified beyond reason because it sinks in how little a woman in that society you wrote about is valued. They become, what was it, glass. They become glass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just, it was an eye opener, and it was also one of the most well commented, well reviewed stories in the anthology. People loved it. Frankly, I ought to go put it up so people can buy it. Hey, Lou,
Yes, sir.
I know you've got some great questions that you can ask Troy because you two spent a week together in Colorado. I mean, Adam.
We both did the thing.
Uh,
We had an adventure followed by an adventure followed by an adventure. He came to me with a broken nose and a black eye, which is healing nicely. I can see if you move the glasses, you can see the remains of it. Yeah, and he posted the nicest thing after on his wall. Once he got back home and everything was safe, he said the first part of the trip was violent, but the second part, and I'm paraphrasing, was just wonderful. And thank you for allowing me to show you around Denver and for to have that one-on-one time was just pure magic. It really was.
And the only real problem with the trip, and I'm very sincere about this, it was too goddamn short.
Yeah.
But you made the days full, and that was very good. I did not actually break my nose. I got a bloody nose. But it did send me to the emergency room during a wedding reception for my nephew and his new bride, and that was pretty appalling. I'd only waited for that wedding for a year, so and I just went down a flight of stairs and then did one of those things where I was parallel to the ground and I skidded on my nose. So that was not fun. But my teeth are just now starting not to hurt. So that's kind of weird. And I still got a welt inside my lip. So it was a pretty bad thing. And then we came down and you proved that I do have some fear of heights.
Did? Yes, I did.
I never thought I had fear of heights, but I have fear of heights. So when we went up Mount Evans.
We did. We had a great trip. Mount Evans is it's the location for the highest paved parking lot in North America, and it's just an hour's drive. It's a beautiful drive, and it's just an hour's drive away. And I have a Honda Pilot. It's got 4-wheel drive. It's a nimble beast for 4,000 pounds, and yeah, but I was driving, and poor Adam was in the passenger seat, looking over the edge and going, "Oh, that's a long drop." And I do admit that at one point I kind of drove a little bit towards the drop on my side, and he was very quiet. He didn't say anything, but he noticed.
Oh, I did say something. I said, "Lou, you're wool gathering," or something like that. And he was just, "Oh, how beautiful this is," just was going straight toward the end.
We had the opportunity to become part of the landscape in small pieces scattered down the hillside. And
I must say that we reached the top, and we both had altitude sickness.
Yeah.
Or like not altitude sickness. We were both
impaired,
mentally impaired at that thing. And then 5 minutes on the way down, we were fine. We just crossed the magic, the post, the threshold. We passed the threshold where we could think again.
Yeah,
and that was very interesting. We also had a nice sing-a-thon at the mountain. Another guy started singing, and I started singing simultaneously. I can see for miles and miles.
The distance we could see from up there was prodigious. It was amazing how far we could see.
Well, from there, the distance was about 10 feet.
Because the cloud had
yes,
the cloud had come in.
Lots and lots of sheep and rams who you must not bother because they will charge you, and you will take it like a 20-foot jump off the edge of the mountain. So don't do that.
Yeah, we saw mountain goats and we saw bighorn sheep. Those
Big horn.
the brown ones with the little horns, those were all ewes. And reminds me of my grandfather, who, Adam, I think you would have really enjoyed. His name was Israel Reuben Berger, and he had a
That was
storied
a Denzel Washington movie.
Israel Reuben Berger. Oh,
No.
that's a storied life. He used to say to me, he said, "Sonny," he called me Sonny or Buster. I don't think he had a problem remembering my name. My first name was his father's middle name. His father was Isaac Lewis Berger, and I was named in honor of my great grandfather, whom I met when I was just a month or so old, and he passed shortly after. But my grandfather had a joke about U's. He would say, "Buster, do you know how to make a U-turn?" And I would say, "No," knowing that it was a joke, even though I was driving and I knew. He said, "You blow in her ear." Like that. Like that's not the most filthy farm animal kind of indecent experience you're ever going to have.
Yeah.
But that's my grandfather. He passed in 2013, so I miss him every day. But he was in World War II. He volunteered after he got his medical degree at the age of 22. He was really smart. Exactly, Dale.
Yes, I know. So sorry for your loss, but
So
It's
Adam
really-
Troy.
Go ahead.
I mean,
Yeah.
Adam.
I'm
So
losing.
Lou was named after his great grandfather. Do you have a naming story?
Only in Hebrew. My Hebrew name is Avraham ben Shabbatai. Avraham was a grandfather, and Shabbatai is the Hebrew version of Sabi, which was my father's name, Saby.
No kidding.
And as a kid, I met many school teachers who told me that could not possibly be my father's name. Sabi. It's short for Sebastian. No, it's not. You could live with, well, have him call me. I know that's not his real name. No, I will not do that. He would say, "Are you stupid?" And he would say that to me, not to you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But, and as for Adam Troy, they're just a combination of names. But at the time and for years to follow, people thought I was named after a then popular character on TV, played by Gardner McKay, Captain Adam-Troy, Strangers in Paradise. He was kind of like Captain Kirk in the Southeast Islands. He ran a charter boat, picking up people and taking them out fishing, and somehow this led to adventures. And they didn't lead to an occasional adventure; they led to an adventure every week. So I would say that he had a very strange situation regarding his charter boat vessel. But it's been about 50 years since anybody has mentioned Captain Adam Troy to me. So, and that's a boring story, so I apologize. Go on.
Well, you guys had a better luck of it than I did. I got named after my grandfather, Robert Lee, who was named after the general.
Robert E. Lee. Yep.
Yep, they did that a lot down there.
Yep. Where'd you grow up, Bob?
Mostly Texas, Kansas.
Yeah.
Moved to Texas when I was 6. So Kansas is just a place I go to whenever I feel the urge to see flat land.
Yeah, that's the best place. Oh my God, there's an abundance of it. I have to ask you a question. It's a personal question. You don't have to answer it. How does a boy born in Texas, living in Kansas, both red states, both highly conservative, rural and agricultural, how did you manage to get kicked so far across the line that you're championing the ACLU with profits going from every one of the anthologies to them, and curating authors like me who lean left to write our very best stories, and you hold us to a high standard? How did that come about?
I'll be blunt. I traveled.
They do say travel's the best education.
I traveled. I wound up in the Navy, going overseas. I saw poverty I grew up in poverty, or what I thought was poverty, and then I saw real poverty. Um, I met the first gay people I ever met were in the Navy, and they
Yeah, but
were
that you
with,
knowingly met.
huh?
That you knowingly met.
Yeah.
Well,
You
did I?
probably met a whole bunch, but didn't know it.
Yeah.
Well, it was Texas, yeah, and I was 16. So
Yeah.
first ones I knew, knowingly met, were in the Navy. One of my best buddies um, wanted out of the Navy, and so he had a letter from a friend declaring his undying love, and he left it on top of his blanket during a inspection tour that he knew was coming. Did it on purpose. Told us in advance. He was gone inside of 3 days. Uh, but I looked at all of that kind of stuff. I saw that, and then it just lived in Florida for a while, lived in New York for a while, lived in, you know, and went to college. And it's kind of hard to take somebody and expose them to all that, send them to college, and then have them still want to be a conservative, unless of course they're a banker.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. That's a whole bubble.
but that's in answer to your question, Lou. That's how it happened. Is I got exposed to something beyond Texas.
I'm a product of the South Florida public school system. And I even went to the University of Miami and graduated in 1990 with a bachelor's degree in English literature and promptly left the state. Not because of politics, but because I wanted to strike out on my own and find who I was outside of Florida. And I've gone back to Florida periodically to visit, and I no longer recognize the political landscape that Florida has. I mean, it's frustrating for me. And Adam lives in Florida, and I would love for him not to, because I feel like anymore it's becoming more and more dangerous for folks who think left-leaning thoughts to be there.
I feel like I live in Munich, and that is 100% true. Um, the problem is I moved down to Florida originally for work, but I lived in South Florida, which is in terms of politics largely a suburb of New York. It just is. And then as you pass Orlando, it turns from a blue state to a purple one to a red one. And I am in deep red state right now. And I see the Trump signs, and I see the Nazi-coded gun pawn shop, and I'm really terrified. And I'm living here right now because I cannot. I don't have the wherewithal right now to leave. My problem is, unfortunately, that when you have a rattlesnake clamped tight on your ass, moving is a little bit like saying, well, I'll let it bite another part of my body. Because really, I can't think of a place in the United States that is safe from what I believe that is coming. Not even the blue states. And then I think about places in the world, and safe places in the world are getting shorter and shorter, and then a smaller and smaller list. I think it's very, very scary, and I know we say this every time, but I think the future of the United States depends on avoiding a certain guy getting back into office right now. If that happens, he will cement his hold. And that is terrifying to me, because or if the governor of Florida makes it in to the Oval Office. Good Lord, that guy's crazier than I ever dreamed he was. Just one objection to a book means nobody can read it. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you this, Adam, and we at BQ Press. Remember, I mentioned that little project that David's working on with us.
Yeah,
That is exactly what it's about.
Trump back.
It's called "Breaking Up is Hard to Do."
Oh, you're talking about secession.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's just I'm scared too.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's just
Yeah.
there's if do you ever watch Morning Joe, Adam?
No.
Okay, they had a series of charts and studies that they took one number that just amazed me, and it started from data being gathered in the 70s all the way through to current, and it was basically, is the opposition party evil? Was the fundamental premise of it. And it started down around the 20 to 30% range. And oddly enough, the conservatives were at the 20, and the blue and the liberals were at the 30. And they a small percentage of each party believed the other party was evil. Nowadays, it's in the 70, 80%. That is an irreconcilable difference, and it spooks me.
Yeah. Spooks the hell out of me too. But unfortunately, there's a problem with secession too. Um, and story I made up a few years ago. It's a fiction, but a metaphor that I came up with. I could say cusses in this space, right?
I don't mind.
Okay, everybody, if you mind, leave. But
Get out of here. Buy my book. Get out.
okay, there. I like you to imagine that the world has had absolutely enough of the Ku Klux Klan Nazi Party bastards, and decide, as long as people can cross the border before we start, then you can have your little state. So what they said is they're giving the racists permission to have their own compound the size of, I name a state at random, the state of Montana, where they can live and be racist as much as they want. It's called racist fuckerland. Okay. And in the weeks and months before racist fuckerland gets its independence, all the black people, all the Jews, all the American Indians, everybody, all the gay people, all the admitted gay people, they all leave, and you are left with a nation of racist fuckers who are just left to their own devices to live how they want, run the place how they want. Except that after a month, they feel a little empty.
You think?
Yeah, they feel a little empty. There's nothing to do. So they decide, you know what? We've had more than enough of these people whose brown eyes are below this shade. We've had more than enough of those.
Yep.
We're going to expel them. So you have racist fuckerland minus the brown-eyed people, racist fuckerland plus the brown-eyed people. And that solves the problem for a while. But then they say, you know what? If your pinky is large enough compared to the rest of the size of your hand, then you are clearly an inferior person. So we're going to expel you. And this keeps on going until you finally have a bunch of postage stamp sized republics, including the much smaller racist fuckerland, and don't belong to any of the previously expelled demographics. A very small republic called Ted, because he's the only one left.
He's the only guy left.
He's the only guy left. Lives in a republic by himself and says, "Oh, I would expel somebody if there were anybody else." And the problem is that the Civil War, as it was in 1860, was more or less convenient comparatively, because you had an area above the Mason-Dixon line and an area above the Mason-Dixon line where they were pretty slaves aside, and that's a seriously large aside, they were pretty solid demographics of voters. Okay, now we have areas, the urban areas and the red areas. You can't amputate the urban areas,
That's where the money comes from.
and you can't amputate the forest land and the racist fuckers. You can't do that. Um, I mean, hell, in Florida, they've had one of the state secession things where they said the area above Orlando should be its own state, which should be red, which would be a nightmare for those of us who were in South Florida, because you'd have to drive through basically a different country officially to get back to civilization, to get back to an area that was your color on the map. And there are a lot of states trying to do this. A lot of there's a demographic in California that wants the conservative parts of California to secede. Of course, they also want two senators. There's a demographic in Oregon wants to amputate the blue left half of the state. Now, I almost appreciate those guys because what they want to do is join Idaho. They don't want to be their own state. So if they join Idaho, they get more congressmen, which they were getting anyway, but they wouldn't get more senators. So they kind of missed a sure thing. But the actual support for this is zero statistically, and it's really a good thing for them because they would start bankrupt. All the money comes from the blue areas.
That is the dilemma for many of these places. Where's the, you take the states that want to secede the most, wow, and look at the bottom 10 for education, you'll find 8 out of 10 of them there.
I mean, seriously, if the blue parts of Texas seceded, that means that means all the municipal areas would be their own state, and the rest would be like little rest stops on four-way intersections. And that's a lot of oversimplification, but it's largely true. And both sides would hurt. So
yeah, we liberals need the conservatives for certain aspects, and I'm excluding the things we need. That we need from conservatives is social conservatism. We don't need that. It's retro. It moves us backwards as people, as a humanity. But we do need conservatives to push back on egregious policies that are too high and mighty in the sky. We need a more focused, like Eisenhower. Eisenhower focused strongly as a Republican on our infrastructure, and he's the one responsible for our interstate highway system, and the fact that he laid it out in such a way that a certain length, every certain number of miles, had to be long enough to land bombers on, was because if we ever had a civil war, we would need places where we could have big airplanes land appropriately, and those interstates are built to be that.
And I
will say something else, if you allow me to interrupt you. I will say something else. I am not one of those guys. I have never been one of those guys who has said, I have this liberal group of talking points, and I don't want any relationship with any conservative, even a Trumpian. Two of my friends are such strong Trumpians that their political statements make me cry. One is a big supporter of the idea that January 6th was a positive thing. One is a big supporter of the idea that Biden is totally senile and refuses to think that Trump is anything but a genius. However, when I had cancer and when I could barely take care of myself, one of them traveled hundreds of miles to come to my house, and I thought we would just sit down and have a meal. He said, sit down and leave me alone. And he brought cleaning supplies and did a top to bottom cleaning in my house. Trumpian. Another guy Another guy was a good friend of Judy and myself, who has again said things I want to cry, and has said things that made me say, "Are you out of your fucking mind?" And if we talk politics, we start yelling at each other. But he's a good friend of mine. He would give me the shirt off of his back, and that's the problem. That's the problem. I know that the standard comment among a lot of liberals are, "It's easy for you. You're white." Well, no, you don't have the right to start drawing red lines through my group list of friends. There are
Right.
lots of things that I love that there are lots of things that allow me to judge what I think of other people. And I'll close this off by a statement that uh, one of my most liberal friends was absolutely resented and hated and could not stand one of the Trumpian friends I talk about until his son got sick. And unbidden, that friend sent him money, even though they were at each other's throats politically. You never do know. People are bloody complicated. So
My girlfriend Kelly, who you met, Adam, when you were here, uh,
yes,
Kelly's
lovely.
Kelly's a Republican, and I think the world of her. And we talk sometimes about policies, and it turns out that she doesn't hold any of the main talking points that the GOP does when it comes to social conservatism. She doesn't have a problem with gay people. She doesn't have a problem with black people. She doesn't have a problem with any of those things. She believes in a woman's right to choose, and
She's an Eisenhower Republican. I don't know if
she
that's 100% accurate,
it's
but
very close.
she's certainly not a Trump Republican.
She took a motorcycle trip recently, got back a couple days ago, and their trip took them down into Taos, New Mexico, and down to Santa Fe, and all throughout. And being on motorcycles, they didn't go on the main highways like you and I might go in a car as the most expeditious way of getting from one place to another. No, they deliberately plotted their trips through small towns. And small towns in New Mexico and small towns in Colorado tend to be red in political leanings. And there was one store they stopped in where they were delighted that they had all of these imprints that you could on the premises adhere to using heat transfers, iron-on transfers, and there is a wide swath of political iron-on transfers. The majority of them were for Trump. Trump won, you know it, and I know it, and that was something they could put on a shirt. And so Kelly's writing partner, who is in the LGBTQ spectrum, I won't say what, said to the shop owner, "Hey, where's the ones that say Trump lost?" And the shop owner looked at Kelly, who was wearing her hair short and didn't have any makeup on that day, and looked at the other person who is a woman and figured it instantly, oh, I know who I'm talking to, and very kind of sneering said, "Yeah, we sold out of those. We sold out of the Trump lost iron-ons." And Kelly burst into laughter because she's got a big, open, good heart. Burst into laughter. She goes, "That was really funny." I'm like, "No, you were in the midst of the careful curation by propaganda of folks that are going to be voting in 2024. That whole town, that curator that works there at that store, the people who are buying up those iron-on transfers, are they all doing it just to poke fun at the libs, or is that their actual, real idea of how the world actually is? Is that their reality?" And I
That
think
is
it's their
but
reality.
for a lot of them, it is their reality. I got to say something else. Um, Nobody was more conservative than my father-in-law. I mean, our Thanksgivings were fun.
I can imagine.
Um, Judy was a liberal. I was to the left of her, and we had many arguments about the death penalty. Um, but my father-in-law was deeply inside the bubble, and he actually believed that Obama was not born in the United States. He was a birther.
Yeah.
And we try, and he would start yelling, and he actually was of the belief that this was a conspiracy that began in Honolulu the day that Barack Obama was born, that a conspiracy of leftists looked at this black baby and said, "We will make him the president of the United States," because historically that has always been the direct path to the presidency. Like a random black baby. Okay. Um, and he started yelling in the car once that that you know what his father was. He was not born in the United States. And I had enough, and I yelled, "For God's sake, Marvin, his mother was from Kansas. Forget his father. He was an American. He's an American no matter what because of his mother."
Yep.
And he shut up. It was a delightful moment. He shut up, and he never put that theory forth again because he had no way around that. He had to admit it was nonsense. At about the same time, my wife quietly removed Sinclair and Fox from the radio in the car and put it on NPR. And over the next month and a half, it became noticeably more liberal. That was very fun. But again, these people, they can be reached. Some of them are unreachable, but as a group, they can be reached. Individuals can be reached. I mean, in the same way that I used to believe shit that makes me cringe right now.
Yeah.
A year ago, I believed shit that makes me cringe right now. People are reachable unless they totally block all incoming information. You know,
I have to agree. The individuals, the groups often not, but the individuals.
It's that old mob mentality. It's a whole different animal when you're dealing with a mob versus individual one-on-one.
Yeah, but
I always remember one moment during the January 6th riot, as it was breaking up, the January 6th insurrection, excuse me, where this couple was walking away, sweetest looking couple in the world, with the tears coming down their faces because of the tear gas. And the woman said something that was so revelatory to me, to the reporter, that I said, yeah, that's how reasonable they think they're being. She said, all we were doing was trying to overthrow the government. That's all she was doing. And she was like obvious to her, like, why would anybody want to stop that?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I tell you, guys, we're coming up on the end, near the end of this. But Adam, is there any critical key you want to leave America with the wisdom of Adam?
The wisdom of Adam is what the French call the wisdom of the stairwell. I tend to think of my arguments too late. I would just say that that this is a very critical election. It's a very critical time, and you have to watch the various Trump trials, of which there will be more. I'm telling you this right now. He's going to have so many trials that he's going to have to alternate between them daily, and this is a good thing. If nothing else, maybe he'll just get so dominated by all these criminal repercussions that he will be unable to do anything else. That's what I hope.
That's a given. Now I understand that in Lou's home state, you're in Denver. That's part of Colorado, I understand. Colorado has got a slightly different state law implementing the 14th Amendment on insurrectionists running for office. And there is a serious move afoot to get Trump off the ballot in Colorado. What do you know about that?
I don't, but I know that voting is done by state. It's not a federal thing. We are a republic of states. We are not officially a democracy, a pure democracy. We're a republic of states, and our electoral college interprets whatever the hell they want to interpret. But the 14th Amendment, if you swear an oath to the Constitution and then you try to overthrow the government, you're invalid. You're invalidated from participating in political office. That's done. It's not clear because it was poorly written. It didn't anticipate this. It didn't say you have to be convicted of having done that sort of thing. You just have to participate in it. So I suspect we're going to need to figure out what that means as far as how that 14th Amendment needs to be interpreted. But if he is convicted of insurrection, he's going to jail anyway.
I heard an interesting take on this that is just a nightmare to consider. It says, okay, let's just go all the way out, and the Trump is convicted of something akin to seditious conspiracy or whatever the sedition is, convicted of sedition. The argument is that there is nothing in the 14th Amendment that says he can't be on the ballot. It just says he can't be president. And so they're using that as a defense against all the people that says he shouldn't be on the ballot.
It's going to be very strange. I'd like to, if he is convicted, and if he does jail time, which is several degrees of unlikely, but it could happen. If he does jail time and he's locked away in some minimum security hellhole, or for that matter, in the equivalent of Spandau prison, a prison with one prisoner, and he is not eligible for a presidential parole because because it's a state charge, and they refuse. And let's say his demographic succeeds in getting him into office anyway. It'd be a weird president who can't show up.
Yeah.
And he would basically be little Paulie from Goodfellas, living in a little luxury cell in the middle of prison, cooking, slicing his pieces of garlic. Yeah.
You got to write that, man. We got a book right now, open for submission, called Alternative Truths, which was our first bestseller. The new one we have is Alternative Truths Southern Edition, bless their hearts. Now imagine the story you just described of a convicted president having to have his White House in a Georgia prison complex.
I'll give you one bit more than that. A lot of these prisons keep the prisoners occupied by offering the well-behaved ones the chance to foster dogs. Imagine Trump being offered that choice. He hates dogs, but it's nobody knows dogs like I do. But that would be hilarious because he can't stand them. He thinks they're low class. I like the whole idea of him being of two minds, being forced to foster the yappiest, most privileged, most incontinent dog that they could find. I just
didn't he call Rosie O'Donnell a dog at one point? Wouldn't it be that if he's well behaved, Rosie O'Donnell gets to come visit him and taunt him for half an hour every couple weeks?
I like the idea of a line stretching out the door for your opportunity to bitch slap him, but that's something.
like those dump tanks in the carnival where you throw a ball and it goes in the water. Yeah.
I ain't writing that story because it's like one level, but
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's just I think.
Tell you what, if you're lying there contemplating the fact that your nose doesn't hurt anymore, but your teeth are starting to hurt, and you find yourself saying, "Oh, to get where I got to go down a set of stairs," and I'm I'm still a little PTSD on stairs.
Yes, absolutely.
Step over to the keyboard and start typing. And we will.
Maybe with that story, maybe with another.
It'd be that one or another, because I can tell you the um, the David Gerald story for that one. All I can say about it without being is that it's a real pisser.
Golden shower implications. Interesting.
No surprise for David. David is not reached his twilight.
Yeah.
You know,
we spent so much time talking about David this show that I swear it's the last Sunday. But hey, he is indeed an icon. So when's he moving to Vermont?
Well, I think they're there now.
I think I think where he is right now is they're arranging, among other things, they're looking for somebody who will drive the truck. They're not using a professional mover. They're taking their time. David has incredible stamina for driving, but he is getting up there. I think he went to Vermont. He went on a plane for the first time in many, many years, with Sean to look at the house. But I think that there will be a trusted fan involvement in the move. I don't know anything else.
Yeah,
but I believe so. David has generosity for pizza and for helping people out. So we'll see. I just hope the move is trouble free. I hope they open up the house. I hope that they run it as an inn. And I hope that they have 3 wilderness brothers living next door to them, called Larry, Darrell, and Darrell. Is what I hope.
Bob, we're at time. Thank you.
And also, Lou.
Yes, sir.
I will extend Alternative Truth's Southern Edition as much as I need if you've got a story you're working on, because I can tell you this, it's going to be a great one, and I'd love to have you in it. And because could you imagine the joy of having a book with not only Jim Wright and David Gerald, but Adam-Troy Castro and Lou Berger?
My great
Nothing could possibly be better.
Well, how could you have a better book? My great, I think it's 5 or 6 grandfather, Benjamin Parks, lived in Dahlonega, Georgia, and while out hunting in the 1820s, tripped over a rock. It's just like the beginning intro to the Beverly Hillbillies. And when he was nursing his leg, he realized that there was a lot of gold in that there boulder. And then Georgia had a little bit of a gold rush in the late 1820s. And what he did with that money, I don't know, but I could research it. I could figure it out. I could learn. But it'd be great to have Benjamin Parks stumble out of the woods in Dahlonega, Georgia in the 21st century, look around and say, what in tarnation?
Or he could have a backpack full of gold and he could try to get it past the Texas state troopers who would come after him with tanks. That would be good.
It's my gold and I earned it.
You could call it Sisu, you all.
Sisu.
Okay, so I hope you two have inspired lots of writers.
Thank you.
Because I did stretch out. I have a firm belief if I'm not really ready to publish a book, I say keep taking submissions right up into the last day that you're before you have to cut it off and make decisions. So you guys take care.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I think what you said there is true, Adam. Vote. Pay attention. This election that we've got coming up in the next is critical. I mean, look at what they're trying to do in Wisconsin. They literally want to impeach a Supreme Court justice for being liberal. What they're doing in Georgia, they give themselves, the state, the power to go replace the will of the voters if they've got somebody, a prosecutor, prosecuting the wrong people or not prosecuting the right people. We're living in a world where one of the major parties says the will of the voters is not sufficient to drive change, to set public policy. We have the right to override the will of the voters as a matter of course, and we've just got to keep voting until there ain't none of them left. So anyway, that's just me being on a little speech. Say goodbye, Lou.
Goodbye, Lou.
Adam.
Have a wonderful Sunday, everybody.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you guys take care, and I will talk to you